All right, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Wednesday. Of course, you're watching Chicago Music Revealed, Chicago Jazz Magazine, ChicagoJazz.com. I am Mike Jeffers, and welcome to episode 88 of Chicago Music Revealed. As you know, we do this 3 times a week now. I dialed it back a little bit from our regular every day because at least some things are getting busier here in Chicago, which is good news. There's some live performances happening. There's some different things going on in the city. And as everyone knows, as I always say, I also got brought on. So I'm the Director of Entertainment and Programming at the soon-to-be opening Epiphany Center for the Arts right here in the West Loop. Details coming Friday. We're going to announce. Tickets are going on sale. Very limited COVID-safe seating inside, and then a full platform, live stream pay-per-view platform that everybody can watch throughout the entire world if they want to. So stay tuned for that. All the information coming Friday on Chicago Music Revealed. And, of course, that's going to be our Blues and Beyond segment with our special guest host, Dave Katzman, will be on, and we will be interviewing Nick Moss. So I got all the plugs in. Now, this is an honor, and I am going to try to not do my drum talk with Ralph for like 4 hours, because he and I could probably, first we'll start off with brush technique, and then, everybody will be bored, and then we'll just continue on. But Ralph Peterson is on, and a legend in the drumming world and in the jazz world, obviously, but he has a brand new recording coming out September 18th called Onward and Upward, and it's part of the Messenger Legacy. It's Ralph Peterson and the Messenger Legacy. And Ralph, it is a pleasure and honor to have you on the show, and I am looking forward to being able to listen to the entire recording. I got snippets of it. Sounds incredible as usual. I did hear Legacy Alive Volume 6 last year at the Side Door, killing. And of course, I've been following you for years. So welcome to Chicago Music Revealed. It is an honor to have you on.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be with you. And then we also have Gen X Big Band, Listen Up.
That's right.
Which received recognition as the Emerging Artist Big Band, the Critics Poll.
That's right.
Which is also a kind of more direct tribute to how I became a messenger myself.
Well, let's talk.
Big band.
I was going to say, let's talk a little bit about that, how you became a messenger, because, you were the last drummer that Art Blakey brought on, and, he mentored you, and you were, you've been pushing this and leading the charge and really picking up where Art left off after he passed away and pushing the legacy of the Messengers and jazz into the future. And that's a tribute to the tracks I heard. Just makes it sounds like this is like where Art probably would have wanted some of this music to go to in the 21st century. But let's talk a little bit. How did you meet Art Blakey? Were you just hanging out and you used to see him a lot, and he just, it takes a lot for somebody to invite you into the drum chair, I would imagine.
Well, let me first say that Art Blakey mentored scores of drummers.
Yeah.
Many in my generation and before, Carl Allen, Cindy Blackman, Terry Lynn, Kenny Washington, loads of drummers who would do rehearsals because Art would call rehearsals and then not come. And, the band would work the music up to a certain level, and then he would arrive at the rehearsal and check things out, take it over the top, and then it would become, that piece of music would become a part of the Messenger songbook.
Wow.
So that needs to be said.
Yeah.
So I've met Art Blakey I was made aware of Art Blakey through the mentorship and tutelage of Paul Jeffrey and Michael Carvey. Because when I got to Rutgers, I failed the percussion audition as a drummer because I had rudiments. And so I'm turning off my phone. People never start texting you till you go live.
Of course.
And so I spent the first semester of my freshman year in the trumpet section sitting next to Terrence Blanchard,
Oh.
which proved to me that there's a huge difference between a guy who plays the trumpet and a trumpet player.
Yeah.
It's like a guy who drinks beer trying to drink with a beer drinker. He can get hurt doing that. And so,
All right, that's the best analogy I've heard probably ever. So there you have it. Okay.
and so after a semester of learning my rudiments, I went back and studied with Michael Carvin and began to be fascinated by the drive and the flow and the orchestral nature of the jazz messenger sound. The first drummer to have real big impact on me, besides after my father, and then Chris Colombo, was Chris Colombo's son, Sonny Payne, who I had the privilege of taking a private lesson from when I was 12.
Wow, no kidding.
The reason that's relevant is because of what spoke to me in Art Blakey's drumming, because Bill Pierce said once in an interview we did together, and I've latched onto it and run with it, that Art Blakey's drumming can be easily summed up as big band drumming in a small group setting. That's it. That very accurately describes that concept.
Yeah.
So Terrence and I went to school together. We had, college pub gigs for the year and a half that he was in school before he took off to go with Art. And I would follow the band around as much as I could afford to, and was able to both follow the band around and stay in school.
Yeah.
And so eventually at the Jazz Forum, Art Blakey came off the bandstand, walked by, patted me on the shoulder on the way to the dressing room, just kind of out of an acknowledgement, because I would sit right up underneath him, like all of us would.
Yeah.
And he, did that to let me know that my face had become familiar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went back, and it was pretty crowded, and I was introduced to him that night. And about 3 months later, because Art played New York all the time, about 3 months later he played McKell's. In the meantime, I had done my first gig in New York with Walter Davis Jr.
Sure.
And Wynton and Branford Marsalis were on that gig along with Phil Bowler on bass. And Walter gave me my first gig in New York, and I had the privilege and honor of recording his last trio record, Scorpio Horizon, with Santi DiBriano. Yeah. And so Wynton reintroduced me to Art at McKell's, and he asked me if I wanted to sit in. But that night, I think Cindy, Tane, and Smitty all sat in. So when he asked me, I'm like, yes, sir, I'd like to sit in. Like my mouth was saying one thing, but my body was screaming something else. So he said, come to rehearsal tomorrow, 2:00.
Yeah. I
show up at rehearsal in my suit, in the one, my one wool suit in the middle of August. I'm sweating, I'm sweating like I'm greasier than a Florida pork chop, right? And he doesn't show up until minutes before the gig. In the first minute, I rehearsed with the band. I had been following the band. I had been working on my Art Blakey skills, press, roll, shuffle, the theme, the way he played the theme. And so when I sat in was also the first moment that Charnette Moffett sat in. And so we played Bird-like, and then he started to come back towards the bandstand. And Terrence and I had this, kind of worked out that if I got this opportunity, that I was going to try to make some luck out of it. Because, luck, according to Denzel, is the intersection of preparation and opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you're not prepared for your opportunity, you tend to not have good luck. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this is something I try to teach my students. So I go into my best Art Blakey theme imitation, and it stops him in his tracks, and he lets me play it out. And so he keeps me up till 4 o'clock at the typical McKell's hang, 96 in Columbus, 97th in Columbus. We there till about 3 o'clock, 3:30. He's telling me, "Oh man, I've been waiting for you. We're gonna put the big band together. We're gonna get everybody: Freddie Hubbard, Wayne Shorter. We're gonna get everybody. Lee Morgan, Chuck Mangione." I'm like, "Wait a minute, man. Lee Morgan ain't here no more." So and the cats were like, "Man, But true to form, um, true to his word, he called me for a concert at the Boston Globe Festival, March of 1983.
Mm.
At the Boston Globe Festival to play with the big band for the first time. I'm trying to find the. I know I should have pulled it up earlier, but the poster's on my wall, and it's on. I post it all the time on my Facebook page. So I should have pulled it up earlier than now. I'll never find it in my phone now. But that night, the trumpet section was Terrence Winton and John Faddis playing lead. And there's another funny story where Terrence either gave the wrong time or the wrong address to John Faddis for the one rehearsal that John could make. And John came in and sight read the book on the gig, up an octave anyway, which, scared the bejesus out of me. The level of musicianship. Frank Lacey, Robin Eubanks, and Kevin Weavers was the trombone section.
Wow.
And I believe the saxophone section was, Bobby Watson, Donald Harrison, either Bill Pierce or John Toussaint. I have to look at the list.
Yeah.
Doug Miller was playing baritone. James Williams and Charles Fambro in the rhythm section.
Oh wow!
And 2 drum sets on it, and so that galvanized my relationship with him, and I had the privilege of holding that position until he passed. We did Mount Fuji Jazz Festival several times, and it was just an honor and a privilege. It was like a postgraduate fellowship.
Yeah.
That I was getting paid for. You know what I mean? It was crazy. And so when he passed, I kind of made a kind of silent promise to myself that if I ever got in a position to uphold his legacy and extend his legacy and do my part. I mean, all jazz messengers. And one of the things that make Art Blakey so important is that he's probably one of the most impactful band leaders in 20th century music because of the number of sidemen that have become impactful leaders.
Yep.
That's come from his band.
Yeah.
And all of the messengers before me and in my generation and the ones who came after me, like Brian came in the band after. Although he's older than me, when I started with the big band, he was playing with Horace Silver. You dig? Which is, they're another extension of the Messenger legacy.
Yeah.
And so, it's just something that I'm really grateful for. I feel it both an honor and a responsibility. Like we were saying off camera, it doesn't completely define who I am as an artist. I have Triangular 3, the trio with the Curtis brothers.
Yep.
I have Aggregate Prime, an amazing quintet with Gary Thomas and Mark Whitfield and Kenny Davis. And so, kind of my flagship group or sound, which is the Fotet, which, and the Sextet, which, produce, which people like Sean Jones and Tia Fuller and Walter Smith and Victor Gould and those kind of cats came through that band, the sextet, you know.
Yeah.
And so, like me, other jazz messengers, Terrence with the Xtet, Terry Lynn with her
Mm-hmm.
social science is the name of her group. I forget.
Yeah.
But
No, you're right. Yep.
Jean Toussaint, even in London, has uh, uh, a very strong working sextet in which he forwards his combination of that sound and his thoughts as a leader. So after doing the first big band record live and doing the second big band record in the studio with the help of Berklee College of Music, the big band being made up of all Berklee, active Berklee students.
Uh-huh.
And the big band also had two drummers on each record. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was a lot to teach them how to work together and play musically and sacrifice their own ego for the music, um, and as well as learning the vocabulary of the jazz messengers, as well as the vocabulary of certain big bands that
Yeah. Yeah.
made the two work together. And so, like I said earlier, the big band "Listen Up" record is put us put the spotlight on us by Downbeat. And we're
Mm-hmm.
really proud and happy for the students who participated in that. Hopefully, we'll be in the Grammy running again. And then we did the Messenger Legacy, and the Messenger Legacy was, with Bobby Watson and Bill Pierce, Brian Lynch, Essiot, and Jeffrey
Mm-hmm.
Keezer.
Yep.
And so that record was incredibly fun. We toured a lot, and the touring made clear to me how much hunger and thirst there was for that sound, and how
Mm-hmm.
not so much the tunes, but the sound. Okay. And so when it came time to record the Messenger Legacy again, something inside of me just didn't feel comfortable doing another record of Jazz Messenger greatest hits.
Right.
It would be like, so what? You proved you could do that on the last record.
Yeah.
And, one of the guiding principles of being in the Jazz Messenger was that new music always had to be created for for the current particular band.
Mm.
And so I took that idea of Art's and made it the centerpiece um, challenge for Onward and Upward. By the way, the phrase Onward and Upward comes from my trumpet teacher, Bill Fielder at Rutgers. And, I didn't invent it, because also it was from Bill Fielder that I learned that there's nothing new under the sun. Until you discover it, then it becomes new. You know,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
Newton's third law of relativity says that everything that's in the universe has been in the universe since the beginning of the universe. Energy is neither lost or gained; it merely changes form. So there's nothing new.
Yeah.
So people who are trying to always uh, turn themselves inside out or stand on their head based on being original haven't figured that out. The process of originality is an equation that begins with understanding what happened before you,
Mm-hmm.
and in the assimilation to reproduce what happens before you, you discover your inability to achieve that level of greatness because you're not them, and so that compels you to find your own expression of the same kind of ideas.
Mm.
So it's imitation, assimilation, and then if any innovation comes out of it, they need to have those two components in place before, and a lot of young musicians, um, and I get a chuckle out of it because I'm a child of the 70s. So a lot of what everybody's calling fresh and new and original now was the music I grew up to
Yeah.
before I discovered the Dizzy Gillespie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
uh, I tell people all the time, my first favorite Freddie Hubbard record was Liquid Love. Oh, wait, no. The record was called Windjammer. The
Yep.
record
Yep.
was
Yep.
called Windjammer. And the tune was Neo Terra. You know, it was the first Freddie Hubbard solo that I ever learned on trumpet. You know, but, you know, it's kind of, this music is a big tent.
Mm-hmm.
And once you come inside, it matters less how you got and it matters more what you do after you get in terms of your ability to want to honor the music and thereby make a statement. You
Well,
know, so
that
I hope you're able to do that with this record. You know, we had a lot of fun making it. It was like a fraternal conclave to have, you know, Joanne Burkeen and Bill Pierce as the senior messengers, you know, along
Mhm.
with, you know, uh, Melissa Slocum, the bassist, who is coincidentally my daughter's mother.
Oh,
And, you know, a lot of people don't know that she played a couple of maybe 2 weeks with the Jazz Messengers. Between Leon Lee Dorsey and Essie, Melissa Slocum had the gig. And the reason I know is because I made the recommendation for both Melissa and Essie, and Bobby backed me up on Essie, and that's how, you know, Essie, you know, came to become a messenger. And
yeah.
so we've had long relationships. Some of us have been friends. A lot of them have seen me come through a lot of the fire in life that I subjected myself to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm real grateful today to be 24 years and change drinking drug free. You know, and
Yeah.
so a lot of those guys saw me get through that and never gave up on me as friends and as a musician. And so there was a lot of love in the studio over those 2 days. And coincidentally, we recorded the record on the 6th and the 7th. Everybody went home on the 8th. I left New York on the 9th after everything was done, and New York was shut down on the 10th for COVID.
Wow. I actually I read that you also during the recording, as part of your production, your music label and production company and all that stuff, you actually did two full length videos of tunes, and then you also had the foresight to interview everybody when they were all in the studio performing and stuff, right? So you have all that footage.
I have all that footage, and it took more than foresight, it took capital.
Yeah.
And luckily, I was blessed by an investor um, who is a 40-year friend from the Rutgers days, a great bass player in his own right, who happened to study computer science and wishes to remain nameless because he don't want his phone blowing up.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? But the financial logistics of putting together a project of that
Oh
magnitude
yeah.
is formidable.
Oh yeah.
And I'm grateful that I have people who believe in me and want to help me present my art enough to invest in me as a brand. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, that's my guy. That's my foxhole buddy right there, you know.
Well,
And so, yeah, we had pictures, we had video. There's more video to come. You know, I mean, I've got 12 huge files of video. We have
oh.
two music videos now. The first is El Grito,
Mm-hmm.
the Brian Lynch tune, Afro-Cuban, uh, the rumba clave,
Mm-hmm.
you know, timba, and with the timba flavor,
Yep.
and which brings into play the third legacy messenger, Ronaldo de Jesus, who, you know, played with Luquez and Zakai in their band, and then with me in the quartet. So there's an affiliation with everybody who didn't play with Art directly. There's a direct connection with some Messenger alumni,
Mm-hmm.
or outgrowth thereof. And I had the privilege of playing with Art with Giovanni Hidalgo
Oh, geez,
in
that.
Mount Fuji. Talk
Oh,
about your orgy and rhythm on
oh my God.
1980. Oh
Oh
my
my.
God, it was insane. And so, um, yeah, we can look forward to. There's a interview video that maybe I'll post um, after this,
Mm-hmm.
so folks can check it out. Where cats get to talk about various subjects, including, and this is something that I hope we spend some time talking about, what's going on, in the world and in this country and in the world today, because music is very often an expression of that energy,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
And so, I've been very, I've worked hard to maintain my sense of positivity and creativity through the corona era and through the current administration's era and its systematic dismantling of an already imperfect nation, although we knew that,
Yep.
right? But the last 24 hours has 24 to 30 hours has been quite encouraging and actually fascinating as well in some of the exchanges that I've had with friends, acquaintances, and younger musicians and younger people who um, have the energy and the fortitude and the fire to take to the streets. Um, but if I knew then what I know now, you know,
Yeah.
I'd understand, that old saying that, you know, youth is wasted on the young, you know,
Yeah.
because, or the two bull joke, which I cannot tell. You know what I mean? The one bull says, "Let's run down the hill and deal with these cows," and the old bull says, "No, let's walk down and deal with all of them." You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And so, uh, but the dialogue
Yep.
and the conversation, you know, the ability to disagree and maintain friendships with people on the other side of the political aisle.
Yep.
We've come to a place in this country where disagreeing has become so polarized that you have to become the enemy of somebody that disagrees with you. No, you become my enemy when you threaten me or disrespect me or mine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so, but we can disagree and agree to disagree without being disagreeable, because that's how forward progress is made. And um, the turning of the trajectory of an idea as big as American democracy is not like turning a canoe or a paddle boat.
Right.
It's like turning a aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's like 300 yards long.
Yeah.
From the time you hit the brake till the time a vehicle like that comes to a complete stop, it's going to roll. Inertia is going to carry it another 10 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And so people like John Lewis and my father, who
Mm-hmm.
was the first black everything in the police force in the town that I grew up in, and the first black mayor, ran 4 terms unopposed, as more of a public servant than he ever was a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Um, these guys and people like Madam C.J. Walker and Fannie Lou
Yep.
Hamer
Yep.
and Shirley Chisholm,
Yep.
all set the table for what happened in the last 24 to 36 hours. And uh, we need to be mindful that of progress when it's made.
That's right.
You um, I'm not saying we shine and skin and grin and say like everything's okay. The moment we get this fool out of the White House, we need this. We need to apply loving pressure to the new occupants to get this ship righted.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and that's not going to happen. See, I learned in recovery that you know we didn't get in trouble overnight.
That's right.
So fixing it is not going to happen overnight. It's a process and not an event.
That's
So
right.
anyway,
Well,
I think it's important to voice my thoughts as an artist,
mm-hmm.
as a black man in America,
Mm-hmm.
as an educator, as a recovering addict, and as an entrepreneur in this country. You know, it has been some of the statistics um, are very discouraging in that um, the majority of African American owned businesses, first of all, have income of less than $50,000 and employ no more than one other person.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm doing a little bit better than that, it's also a startling reality that in this era of COVID, which should wipe away any doubt for the need of healthcare,
Yeah,
and this is
no
coming from a
kidding.
cancer warrior who's been battling cancer for five years now, and
Mm-hmm.
um, that that you know what's important here is that half of these black-owned businesses won't survive this corona thing
That's right.
unless we put uh, administration in place that understands that small business is the engine of the economy.
That's right.
And as an artist and an independent entrepreneur, I have to give voice to that concern, And anybody who just tells me shut up and paradiddle, or some other some other dumb some other can they well as my man Earthquake says, they can miss me with that. You know what I mean? They can miss me with that. And there's a lot going on within the music community to be
mm-hmm.
excited about. Work being done by Wynton Marsalis, work being done by Christian McBride, work being done, in the Jazz Coalition, Jazz Roads, and I am, one of the things I had to take off any of the burners and put on the side of the stove when I had to suit up for this cancer battle
Mm-hmm.
was my my martial arts program,
Mm.
which was tied to my nonprofit. And so I'm in the process now of restructuring. I got new board, I've added some board members. So, I was hit with the cancer piece, and then a very dear friend and fabulous friend of the music from Detroit, Skip Norris, died suddenly,
Yeah.
and he's one of my board members. And so I allowed the 501c3 to lapse. But I've got an accountant now. Team Onyx is working on the renaissance of the Pinnacle Arts Institute,
Nice.
and hopefully we'll be able to get some grants in the pipeline and start to solve this performance issue by self-sponsoring. Because I'm just not down to live stream for free with a tip link on the website and have the Curtis brothers did the Blue Note at Home
Mm-hmm.
trio concert. We got a great review in All About Jazz. And one of the things, because you can see, I'm working on my studio setup back here.
That's right.
Shout out to Mapex Drums and Minor Cymbals and Evans Drum Heads, Vic First Sticks, and most recently, Earthworks microphones.
Oh, nice.
So I've got the beginnings of my studio set up. And one of the most gratifying comments about the trio live stream was that it was described as having brilliantly crisp sound. Because some of these live streams I've heard,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Some of they need to get it's painful sometimes to listen to, and so, but technology is not cheap,
Right.
and but companies like Earthworks are doing things to help make accessibility of particular kinds of technology accessible not only as to the consumer, but to assist institutions like Berklee College of Music,
Yeah.
where I've been like on the faculty now. It's hard to believe. Going on next year will be my 19th year
Wow.
on the faculty at Berklee. And my good friend trombonist Aaron Johnson, when I left New York, he said, "Man, I give you 3 to 5 years. They either gonna run you out of town or you gonna be running the joint." Well, in the words of Morpheus, in the Matrix, we are still here. And, you know what I mean? And uh, but people at Earthworks Microphones are developing a new uh, USB 3 microphone that'll plug right into the laptop.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And so that makes, because Berklee, like most other sane institutions, have gone full remote for the
Right.
fall semester. And
Right.
this is my last year of teaching before I go on sabbatical. Actually, I was supposed to go on sabbatical this fall, but 60% of sabbatical is touring and recordings, and the studios are just starting to open up. And so, since there ain't no gigs and there ain't no touring and there's no traveling, I pushed my sabbatical till the fall of 21.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You might as well.
you
Might as
know,
well.
universe willing and the creek don't rise, I'll still be here and have the strength, to enjoy my sabbatical.
That's right.
But I'm very excited. Sometime before the release of Onward and Upward, Onyx Productions plans to record the next trio record
Oh,
featuring the
really?
Curtis brothers
Oh,
right here,
oh,
use,
nice.
using the setup, that is being assisted
Can you
by.
can
So
can you imagine? I mean, just think back, right? We were talking about 1983 when you first played with Art Blakey. Can you this technology? Could you imagine if that was around back then? I mean,
and I'm old enough to know what a super scope is.
yeah.
Okay, and super scope was amazing because I played in a big band in college with cats like Tom Chapin and Jerry Weldon, Andrew Beal, and
Oh, yeah.
uh, Pete Belasco and Adam Brenner, Eric Eric Allen,
Yeah.
and these were the saxophonists, which eventually they migrated and matriculated into being the entire saxophone section for Lionel Hampton for years after they graduated. The late great Tom Chapin
Yeah.
went on to break new ground, and Jerry Weldon still got one of the hugest sound on the tenor saxophone ever. And
Mm-hmm.
these cats learned all these train solos that Paul Jeffrey, they didn't learn them, they had to read them. And
Right.
they would learn them and read them with the super scope, which would change the speed, but it would also change the pitch. So these cats could play these solos, in 4, 5, or 6 different keys, which was doubly ridiculous. The amazing slowdown that slows it down but doesn't change the pitch.
Right.
And sometimes the strongest sword goes through the hottest fire. And
That's right.
some of this technology ends up being a crutch. But on the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, it has equalized the playing field of the industry,
Yep.
and so has social media. You know, I tell people, especially in my family, I tell people in social media is is 60 to 80% marketing for me.
Yep. Yep.
You know,
That's it.
I might climb up on the political soapbox every now and then, or share, get involved in some martial arts banter, because I fancy myself a closet martial artist. In October, I was elevated to fifth degree black belt. So, and I'm still training
Nice.
in between chemo treatments and
Nice.
radiation. And so, life is in the living and life goes
Yeah.
on. So,
You brought with the technology stuff. You see all of these younger musicians and now the older musicians, and they show up with their iPads, with the tunes and all that. Talk a little bit about, did anybody on that bandstand ever have music in front of them? I mean, probably some charts at one point, but I mean, for the most
absolutely,
part, I mean,
absolutely. And now we do too.
yeah.
Because first of all, we're old and we suffer from craft, you know, which is can't remember a flipping thing. But that was the purpose for rehearsals.
Yeah.
And art would generally allow you one gig with the music on the floor. You couldn't take a music stand on the bandstand,
Okay. Yep.
you know. And I hope that, we were getting to the point in the Messenger Legacy where we were leading the book less
Mm-hmm.
and less. And I got to the point where I was like, look, if y'all ain't going to use this music, stop making me drag it around because it's a whole nother suitcase and luggage overweight and all kind of stuff, right? And so now we have new music that, and some of it is extremely challenging.
It is actually listening to the recording, man. I mean, just the one that jumped out at me was "Along Came Benny," which
I'm
it.
telling you,
I
I'm telling
mean,
you, Lonnie Plaxico
oh my
left
god.
blood and guts in the studio, and I said his tune was the first tune to go out and the last tune recorded on the session because it took that long. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, I went on.
Yeah,
I was
you gonna
expecting to
run
hear.
it?
I was
You gonna
expecting
run
to.
it?
That's it, man. I was expecting to hear. Oh, okay. Along came Betty. Along came Benny. So I'm like, whoa. I don't know what's going on here, man. This is like some serious stuff. But it sounded
Are you
like.
are you able to hear the changes
Yes.
of Along Came Betty in
Yeah,
there though?
I did, and
Because
that melody's like,
because right
man.
here, if this is the tempo of the tune,
Yep.
and this is the quarter note of the way the changes are going by. So, like, if you play it, maybe people can hear it. And there's a 2-bar intro outside of the structure of the tune, but other than that, it's Along Came Betty front
Yeah.
to back.
No, I heard the changes, but man, listening to that melody.
The other
Wow.
reason I was excited about that tune, and this will be the first time are you going to play it?
No, I can't play this stuff on
Oh,
this thing.
good.
So
Well,
yeah,
then it'll stay under wraps.
that's right. They got to buy the album on September 18th.
This is the knockout punch of the record,
Yeah.
okay? Because, Art used to always fool around with sticking in funk beats in the middle of the swing. He was always open to new ideas and new ways to play the instrument, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was never anti funk. He would slip it in a way that would send a message of its connectiveness,
Mm-hmm.
of how it's all connected.
Yeah.
And um, when I didn't own a pair of brushes until I was 19.
Oh, really?
Philly Joe Jones gave them to me.
Oh, gee. Well.
So even when I was at home practicing to Bud Powell's hallucinations and Dizzy and Roy Eldridge, I found a new baby. I was actually practicing to those tunes with the funk beat from Chameleon
Oh.
and funk beat from Freddie Hubbard's Liquid Love and Windjammer records.
Yeah.
So, which gave an idea of how thoroughly confused I was when I got to Rutgers and didn't know Bo. Okay, I'm trying to keep it clean.
Yeah, right.
We're 48 minutes in, and I haven't blown it yet. I'm trying not to blow it. Family friendly, right? And so, but playing the pocket is something that I did. If I've been playing music 38 years, I was playing pocket at least half of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not a jazz baby. And I'm not a straight ahead acoustic jazz baby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a child of the funk. Okay.
Yep.
Larry Graham and P Funk and Earth, Wind and Fire,
Yeah.
the Commodores, the Ohio Players,
Meters.
the Meters,
Yeah.
Charles Wright and 103rd Street Watts. Listen. That's who I am.
Yeah.
So I have my students laughing all the time when I bust into that stuff because they think, you know how students are. They think that everything that they discover, they invent it. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and so when I drop a beat on them, they like, wait a minute, what you know about that? I'm like, I don't know nothing about that. And so the last tune on the record, gives me an opportunity to express the part of me that a lot of people haven't seen, music,
Mm-hmm.
And so the other reason that we recorded it last is kind of the same reason we recorded El Grito first, because the drums had to be tuned different.
Yeah. Yeah.
On those two tunes than they had to be on all of the other ones. Bass drum a little more open.
Yep.
Toms a little lower.
Yep.
And so, those kind of tweaks were really cool. I want to give another shout out to Mapex because the kit that I'm playing on this record is a 25th anniversary, like silver sparkle drum kit with an 18-inch bass drum. And to be able to play, because they made it for me 2-3 years ago when I reached 25 years as a Mapex endorser. And so to be able to play that drum kit on Onward and Upward, which is my 25th record as a leader, is just all kinds of special for me. And, at one point, the way I was living my life seemed like an impossibility. So I'm just like really grateful for the opportunity to have last this long.
Talk a little bit, because I had Rudy Royston on about a month and a half ago, and he did like a solo recording. And, we talked specifically, obviously, I'm coming from the drummer aspect, but I don't think a lot of people understand this. So talk a little bit about, you've played on probably tens of thousands of different drum sets when you're traveling, you're touring, even if it's the same, even if it's a Mapex set, it could be different here, different there. How important is it for you to sit down and feel, yeah, this set feels really good, and this is the way, you know what I mean? Like, you sit down at a drum set and it's like, it's a 4-piece jazz drum set. Great. How different could it be from the next? But when you sit down at like that Mapex drum set, you get inspired probably differently because it's just tuned differently. It feels better. Everything is there, right? And it just helps your
sometimes it's
playing.
better and sometimes it's different.
Yeah.
And I worked with Rudy. Rudy's one of my soldiers, and I'm proud of all of them. And like Ari, and I could name a whole bunch of them, and they all making noise, making a lot of noise on the drum scene and they ain't just all jazz drummers. You know what I mean? Matt Gartska,
Sure.
Mark Jr., Mark Whitfield Jr., Justin Falk, Antonio. Antonio was one of my earliest Berkeley.
Oh, no kidding.
He's actually my second Berkeley student.
No kidding.
Yeah, back from the 80s and early 90s. But what I learned from watching Art
Mm-hmm.
and having the privilege and responsibility of tuning his drum.
So you were tuning his drums too. How about that?
Before he asked me to sit in,
Oh
if,
man.
if he was at Sweet Basil and they were playing a week and it was in the middle of July and it was 900 degrees in the club and the drums were like,
Yeah,
just
right.
like, dying from the heat and the humidity. And by the third night, they were, John Ramsey, who's the only other living drummer to play as a jazz messenger and former chair of the percussion department at Berkeley,
Mm-hmm.
tuned the drums, did that for Art as well, and a whole lot more. He was Art's functioning road manager when I had him kind of chops. You dig what I'm saying? But I could. Michael Carvin had taught me how to tune a drum set, and because I was kind of a style sponge, I could tune my drums like Philly. I could tune my drums like Art. I could tune my drums kind of like Elvin. I could kind of tune my drums like,
Yep.
at least I was aware of characteristic differences
Mm-hmm.
in the sound.
It's hard to do too, by the way, for everybody watching. I
But
mean, it's
from
not like
Art,
tuning a piano. This is like tuning a
yeah, it's
drum set,
different.
man.
Piano players know nothing. They sit down and it's potluck, complete potluck. It's either hit or miss. They're the only ones. The only people I feel more sorry for than drummers is piano players. But the piano situation overall has gotten better
Yes.
as the level that I perform. There's this saying, there's levels to this thing.
Yep. Yep.
But what I learned from Art is that the sound is in your hands.
Yeah.
And you don't have the sound in your hands and in your mind's ear, in your big ear, your third ear,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't matter what you sit down in front of in terms of drums or cymbals. And I've seen that play itself out by other drummers who try to come behind Art and play too far away from the sound that the drum, like you can't play a soprano saxophone like a baritone saxophone.
Right.
You can't play, there are very few alto players who play the alto like a tenor.
Right.
Donald Harrison is clearly one of them. Kenny
Mm-hmm.
Garrett is another.
Yeah.
Okay. But most alto players play alto saxophone. And when they switch, there's another set of mechanics involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of drummers fail. What do they call epically? Epic fails.
Epic fail.
Sit in, come in behind drums that were set up for Art and play some whole bunch of irrelevant ass non-jazz messenger stuff. Up there, I blew it. We have 4 minutes left, and I blew it. and I've also seen it happen on my kit because my kit is set up for my touch. And so if you try to make the instrument do what it's not set up to do, then it's like shoveling uphill.
Go ahead, say it.
In the rain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so having the sound in my head, which means it has to enter through my ears.
Yep.
And it also has to be more than a head thing. You have to internalize the sound by understanding its function, its role and function in music. Right? So that means you got to learn the music and not just the number of bars, but the chord changes. And not just the chord changes, but the interactive dialogue and how the vocabularies of various styles developed over time. Things didn't happen because cats just got together and did their own thing and it came out great. No. The greatest minds in this music, the highest level of this music is studied.
That's right.
even on the avant-garde idiom,
That's right. Yep.
there's still a concept. I had the great fortune of playing with Stanley Turrentine and David Murray at the same time during the
Wow.
same period, and once even on the same festival.
No kid. Oh man.
So you got to go gig and play the gig you on
That's right.
and understand what that means. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
we don't have as much of that as now because leadership is granted kind of based on freshness and newness as opposed to experience and depth.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I mean,
but
it's a huge point because that's the whole thing. You have to know where something came from in order for you to push it into the future. You can't skip a bunch of steps, you know?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so, you know, whether it's learning this music or politics or the proper execution of a spin hook kick, there's a process involved,
Right.
you know, that begins or the 12 steps. You know, it's been my experience. Most people get clean, they want to go right to the ninth step and make amends. But, you know, the steps are in order for a reason.
That's
You
right.
know what
That's
I
right.
mean?
That's right.
You have to be in a certain condition spiritually
Mm-hmm.
or physically or musically
That's
to
right.
be able to understand what's being put down.
That's right.
I didn't appreciate Charlie Parker or Joe Henderson or John Coltrane the first time I heard it. You know, and like most things with young people, if you can't, young talented people,
Mm-hmm.
if they can't do it right away, they ain't interested in it.
That's right.
So, like, I still feather the bass drum when idiomatically appropriate, when it's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can hear somebody feathering the bass drum, they not feathering the bass drum. Because if you drop a feather on any drum in the drum set, do you hear it?
That's right.
It's like the bear in the woods question.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know what I mean? And so these are the things that I try to represent and principles I try to live by and uh, what I try to pass on to people like Rudy and all of these cats, Jonathan Blake and
Yeah.
DJ Strickland and
Yeah.
Vince Ector. You know, I mean, I'm so proud of these cats because they are not just great drummers. Cush Aberday, they are evolving into leaders. Reggie
That's right.
Quinterly, you know, um, Tyshawn Sorey, you know, to
Yep.
be, and so, uh, and the next crop coming out of Berkeley and the guys that are studying with me now,
Yeah.
you know, um,
Well, and you know, and that's the whole thing. Just to kind of wrap us back around. This has been an incredible conversation, Ralph. I gotta you and I told you before we came out we could talk for like 5 hours probably about all this stuff, man. We already did almost an hour here. It's amazing. But you know, that's the to wrap it all back around. That's the whole purpose of the Messenger Legacy is because everybody that was part of that, especially on this particular recording with all of these tunes. I mean, everybody took their time out of their schedule to write tunes to contribute to this and to put this out because they think, as you do, keeping that legacy alive and passing it along to the next generation is important. And I love
and
the
it's
fact that you're
as
pushing it.
important and is as important as making fresh statements
That's right.
at the same time.
Yeah.
This record is the record that Art would be calling us, cussing us out over if we didn't make.
Yeah. Yeah.
As much as I, you know, as much as I love playing one by one and moaning, it's like church when we play moaning.
Oh yeah. Oh.
But to have the opportunity to take the vocabulary and express it in my own way and on my own terms, you know, after having learned and practiced the rules of being a sideman which is what teaches you how to be a leader,
That's right.
which is why so much of today's music is, as they say, a mile wide and only an inch deep
That's
and has no real depth,
that's right.
or longevity, which is why the industry is shrunk on itself so that the shelf life of a new release, is 3 to 6 weeks.
Isn't that,
It
yeah.
used to be a year and a half.
Yeah.
When I was with Blue Note, I saw it go from a year and a half down to 9 months, which is why, truth be told, I sued to get out of my Blue Note contract.
Oh no. Yeah, you could see it coming, right?
They
You're
were
like,
sitting on music because I had signed into all of these options. And so having my own label, I'm I'm in the driver's seat.
yeah.
So that's why and when COVID hit, being in control of my own company left me nimble enough to make the release adjustments because we had a huge 2-day release concert set up for the Appel Room at Jazz at Lincoln Center. It was
Mm.
going to be incredible. We were going to give awards to Benny Golson and Reggie Workman,
Oh
and that
man.
concert is still going to happen. But we decided to take a page out of hip hop
Yep.
and drop a single,
You
and
did
then
it.
drop a
Yeah.
video, and then drop another single.
Yeah.
And so now the release is coming up in just over a month. And I appreciate you allowing me a platform to talk
Oh,
about
are
it
you
and all the
kidding
other
me?
things.
It's an honor to have you on, man. I told you before we came in. I told you when I introduced you. So I mean, this has been an incredible conversation. I've got to tell everybody it's all linked up below, but ralphpetersonmusic.com, September 18th, it's available, but you can pre-order. You can
On
pre-order on
Bandcamp,
the
yeah.
Bandcamp. The link's below on the Bandcamp. And of course, everybody that's listening to this on the podcast, head over to ralphpetersonmusic.com and check it out and pre-order it. But Ralph, I got to have you back on, and we can just focus in on drums, and then we'll focus in on, hopefully, knock on wood, a brand new administration in November. That'd be fantastic too. So we'll do a double
Man,
whammy.
threaten me with a good time. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'll hit you up, and we're gonna have you back on. But congratulations on everything. It's been a pleasure having you on, and again, thanks so much for being on the show, Ralph.
Thank you. I want to give a shout to Team Onyx, Laura Martinez, my manager, Lydia
Yeah.
Lehman, my publicist, Keith McKinley, my first Taekwondo teacher, and my legal counsel, and Edward LaRose, my graphic guy, Dean David Allback, my mix and Pro Tools tutor. The student has become the teacher. He's a former
Oh,
drum
that's
student,
awesome.
and he coaches me, and we work together. Teamwork makes the dream work. Thank y'all.
That's it. That's it. I'm going to close out the show with Ralph right on screen now. And until next time, I'll see everybody on Friday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for another Chicago Music Reveal. Thanks for watching, and thanks again to Ralph Peterson. Killer.
Peace.